Hey, Steve, how you doing?
Hey Randy, how you doing?
Excellent. Thanks so much for joining us today from your hotel room in Miami.
Yeah, I'm a road warrior, so I do a lot of things from hotel rooms, and I'm very happy to be part of your podcast from this hotel room.
Excellent. Done a lot of these from hotels all over the place for sure. So, everybody, please help me welcome Steve Jow. He is EVP of Sales at TD SYNNEX. This is episode about 182 of
Wow.
Tech Sales Insights. So thanks so much for joining us. We have an awesome title topic, Building a Winning Sales Culture. And not that I haven't been at it a long time, but you've been at it a long time as well. We're sponsored today by the Alexander Group, who's the go-to-market and sales comp sponsor of Sales Community. So the way I like to think of them, they do lots of work for a lot of the advisory board members of Sales Community. But if you think about Bain McKinsey kind of as the white collar, expensive, take a long time to do projects, Alexander Group is more, I'd say, blue collar, great people, been there a long time, affordable and very effective and fast in what they do. So anything around go-to-market planning, comp design, kind of your channel, how you're kind of set up there, but anything around, anything on the go-to-market side, they really do an amazing job. So feel free to check them out. And as always, brought to you by Sales Community. For those that are members, thanks. For those that are not, Tucker will throw on a link and you can get a free membership there. And as always, we have Tucker behind the scenes helping us. So Tucker, thanks so much for your help. So by way of introduction, Steve lives in Sonoma County, so probably just about opposite ends from Miami for sure, and has two lovely daughters, is a big San Francisco sports fan, San Francisco Giants specifically sports fan on the baseball side.
Niners on the football, let's not forget that one.
Niners. They still have a team? Not that I should talk Patriots. So yeah. So at least Boston now is a BC football town.
There you go.
Get that going. We're off to a decent start here. And we're trying to figure out how we met, but we think it was my days at EMC, which if you do the math would have had to been at least 30 years ago. So Steve was an amazing partner in crime on the distributor side, high level how it works. The large tech companies, medium tech companies, need to leverage the channel. SYNNEX is one of the better distribution companies out there. They've got the relationships with the channel partners, so it really helps you kind of go to market, faster and better. And there's a lot that they do around kind of enablement and helping and inventory and supply chain. Times when we'd have these, kind of Thailand typhoons or things like that, really were helpful, especially on the supply chain side, which is great. And was always very helpful. We did several joint QBRs over the years, and this would have been, I guess, my big company stints at EMC, Storage Tech, Sun, HP at the tail end there. So just a great partner. You have a great team as well. So great job with that.
Oh, appreciate that, Randy. And yeah, when we had reconnected and you mentioned, and I know we've pinged each other back and forth over the years. And I thought back and I went, well, yeah, I knew him from EMC. I also knew you from HPE. And I went, oh my gosh, I've known him for over 30 years. I appreciate that. And look, I've been lucky enough to spend those 30 years here at TD SYNNEX. And so I'm glad to have carried that card for that long. And you've been a great person to work with all those times. So thanks a lot for inviting me on again.
Absolutely. And to help me with some of the introductions, I have some intro comments from some mutual friends. So Peter Larock, longtime president at TD SYNNEX, says, of you, the happiest guy in our business. When I've needed upside, it's important. When I've needed upside over the years, Steve doesn't say no. Even if the request is impossible, he takes it and makes it happen. Steve wears his sunglasses everywhere.
Oops,
there they are. Okay, that is his trademark for sure. Loves to play cards. We're lucky to have him here at TD SYNNEX. And Peter obviously had announced recently his retirement. So my comment to him was, say it ain't so, but certainly he's been amazing and wish him the best, right?
Yeah, no, we talk about sales culture. Peter definitely was a big influencer on that. And for those of you that know Peter, he wakes up in a 3-point stance, right? And so when you talk about part of sales culture being let's go, 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 Pete was go, go, go. And so Pete's not retiring. He's just stepping away from the presidency, going to do some things for us from
Oh,
a
okay.
consultancy role for a while. I know Pete, and I don't think he could ever fully step away. I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but I'm glad he's not, because I'm looking forward to working with him for a little bit more. And like I said, he pretty much formulated a lot of what I bring or try to bring as part of my sales culture. And I'm going to remember that Pete's I'm the happiest guy alive. So I try to carry that brand, and Pete's kept me happy. So
Absolutely great.
guy.
Yeah, awesome. Guy. I saw him at Dell World recently as well, with a bunch of others. But anyway, so now Bob Olwig, who's also a longtime exec at WWT. Steve is the embodiment of partnership, whether it's on the golf course or in the boardroom. He understands that the strength of partnerships, collaboration between TD SYNNEX, WWT, NetApp, and others is what sets us apart. Steve's fun and fantastic storytelling, especially at partner events, always brings our shared vision to life, reminding us that together we're better equipped to deliver value to our customers than any competitor. So pretty nice there. And then Dennis Polk, also a longtime SYNNEX and board member too, right?
Yeah, Dennis, yeah, for sure.
So he's a good one.
Ex-CEO too, ex-CEO of TD SYNNEX.
There we go.
Also. Yep.
Steve is one of the best leaders I've worked with, as he has a great for relationships, how we can win together, and positive culture first mindset. He often speaks of and often uses hashtag BTE, best team ever. As a side note, our tailgate group at BC is BTE, best tailgate ever. An accent on it. So I laughed when I saw that, which I told him in social media, because he truly believes in the team is what drives success, not the individual. We can all aspire to have the many positive attributes that Steve executes under every single day. And Jason Kimmery from Intel says Steve has incredible passion and energy that is contagious. He's always willing to jump on a plane wherever he's needed and make it a pleasure to work with TD SYNNEX. And that was it for the intro comments. So certainly very cool, and a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah, wow, that is.
Oh, I got one more. I thought I had one more. Sorry, Greg Ambos.
Okay.
I got to flip my paper over here. So Greg, one of the great channel leaders at Dell. I've known Steve for many years, strong business acumen and a friend of the channel for sure. He leads from the front, and he's liked and respected by all. So pretty good there. And Greg can be a tough judge. So awesome feedback for sure.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's all you got there. So really, really good for sure. So as we're going through here, if anybody's listening along or watching along, feel free to make any comments or ask any questions as well. And we got Tucker that will pull those up for us. So starting off here, so you went to San Francisco State University, and your first job after college was actually at a small bar.
Yeah, it's funny. This was many years ago. I walked into a small company, was a customer of SYNNEX, was known as Compact Microelectronics back then, and they were looking for a procurement agent. I walked in, and I told Albert, this is way back, dating us past those 30 years you and I have known each other.
Yeah.
And I said, he interviewed me, and I said, hey, look, this could be the worst thing you've ever done or the best thing, because I don't know anything about computers. No one did back then. But I'm pretty smart, and I'll learn fast, and I'm a hard worker. And now I do have to put out thanks to him, because he got me into the business. And I've had many people that have helped me along, and I've had a kind of lucky run since then.
Awesome, great. And then amazing 34 plus year run at SYNNEX, now TD SYNNEX. Maybe just kind of briefly go through that impressive career.
Sure. So after CalSoft, they were changing their focus, and Steven Jow, who was the manager of the business for SYNNEX at the time, was hiring. And so I went up to Albert and said, hey, do you mind if I take a job with these guys? My first ever sales job. So I kind of feel like I found my jam, Randy. Took a job, took the one of the smallest areas at the time, turned into one of the biggest, and just held various positions after that. Field rep, nationals partner, the NSPs, they're known as NSPs now. managed them for a while, managed the West Coast sales, managed the commercial sales for SYNNEX. And then through the merger, I was on the IMO team for the sales side, got responsibilities for the commercial business at TD, now Tech Data, TD SYNNEX.
Yep.
So.
Awesome. Really cool. So talking about TD SYNNEX, I mean, it's hard to describe, right? You're 60-ish, billion dollar company. So tell us a little bit more about the company.
You asked me to give a pitch? For sure, for sure. So TD SYNNEX is a $60-ish billion company, large IT distributor, and that's what people have called us throughout the ages. And to your point, it is so much more than just distribution, which is historically logistics and finance. I think with the complexity of the IT channel and IT business, our partners are other resellers. We bring a lot of services and capabilities to bear so that we not only sell the product, we help enable the product. So, a lot of shiny objects, a lot of things that are past shiny objects that are growing out there. And a lot of partners would want to get into that space. The quick pitch that I always say is, we'll help you take a current business and make it more efficient, or we'll help you get into a adjacent business without you having to build the infrastructure costs to do so, because we have it for you.
Yeah, awesome. And it's a fairly competitive, I mean, you're unique for sure in your value prop, but it's also a pretty competitive space too, right?
Very competitive, very competitive. When I started many, many years ago, there were quite a few distributors. There's still quite a few, but less. Really, the top three are us and Ingram and Arrow that are left. And then there's a lot of distributors underneath that number at this point. Really, we were born out of number 2 and 3 merging together a couple of years ago to take roughly large portion or majority of the share of the channel. So we carry all the lines that everybody needs, and we're always acquiring more lines. And in fact, that's been a big part of how we continue to evolve as these organizations have come together.
Yeah, that's great. And then kind of from a sales model perspective, from I'll say ideal customer profile. So you identify the VARs/solution providers, but then kind of within your sales process, it's really I would imagine kind of, top down, sales process where you need to have the executive contact, but then you also have the different functional areas that really care and have a say too, right?
Sure. There's a big value to getting the order out the door. There's a big value to having touch all along the organization. That's from the procurement agent at a reseller, to the finance people at the reseller, to the technologists, to the technical. And like I said, our whole thing is that we bring all those assets to bear to make sure we move up and down that stream. And then to your point, the executive relationship is important. We like to think that we're probably some of the best people to engage with out there. As you know, and you spoke about, I'm a relentless road warrior. And I'll tell you why. My thing is that it's a big, complex world, right? And I feel that by engaging with people, we make it smaller and more understandable. And so, every point of contact in a reseller is important to us, because that's how we make it all happen together. So from RevOps to BizOps to sales guys to the exec relationships, it's all part of the whole puzzle put together.
Yeah. So I know for sure you must have been just, beside yourself during COVID, because I know you're such a great street warrior. So besides amping up your poker game, which you've done very well with, that must have been a very, besides everything else, just a frustrating, stressful time, not being able to get out there face to face.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I did pick up some new hobbies. I picked up indoor rock climbing, which was helpful. I tried to improve my golf game, and I heard Bob mention my golf game earlier. Full disclosure, if you want to take the under on me for a golf, or the over for me on a golf game, I'm usually the safe bet that way.
So as long as you play better than your handicap.
Yeah, that's true. I'm pretty good at a scramble.
Yeah.
But to your point, you're right. It was a little frustrating because I am a relentless road warrior. But it was also good because it exposed us to all the new technologies that we're using
Yeah.
to basically, you know, continue to have those relationships, right? You know, video conference, et cetera. And kudos to the team, kudos to the organization. I mean, we leveraged those tools really fast, as did everybody. And I mean, I don't think we missed the beat. I don't think we missed the beat.
Awesome. And then a lot of other kind of executive friends have that had a culture of kind of face-to-face sales. I'll say this, you can candy coat it, but then there's through COVID, people kind of got lazy. Okay, I don't have to go out on sales calls. I can do these Zooms. And then when it came back, okay, COVID's over. Now get back out on the street. That's kind of a hard thing to have. I'll say the feet on the street, kind of going out there and doing the face-to-face like they used to do, because the Zoom is so so convenient. So did you experience any of that, or kind of anything that you did to get around that?
It's interesting you say that. I think everybody was raring to go back out on the street, and we did too. And we took the road pretty fast. I think that Zoom and Teams and WebEx and all these video conference tools are great, but they're basically add-ons to getting back on the road. There's something to be said about face-to-face.
Yep.
I'll tell you, I'm at this event. I was able to meet a ton of people, and then also come back to my room and say, hey, let's have video conferences. I also think that for all of us that had been on the road before, we did a lot of phone calls. We did a lot of phone conferences,
right?
Mainly audio conferences. I think, like I said, it's an add-on tool that has helped us connect, because now when I call my team, we can have a face-to-face this way, and right. I can still go downstairs and connect with half a dozen people. So
that's awesome. And then from an opportunity perspective, there's certainly a lot going on with AI and kind of other things in the world. So as you look kind of to the kind of go-to-market opportunities, I guess I'll say that you're looking at, what are some things that are on your radar?
It's interesting. As I said, over the course of my career, I've seen distribution change from being really focused on logistics and finance and those type of services, which we still do a really great job at, to really enabling partners to get into spaces, right? So security wraps around everything. It's probably the best horizontal there is. I think this AI revolution, we're in early days right now. And luckily for us, we won the NVIDIA Distributor of the Year award. And we've built up practices around that. So AI obviously is important, but it's still early days. I think it's going to be really exciting when we see more ISVs write specific instances for AI. I think AI at the PC is exciting. TD SYNNEX had the largest Copilot launch ever. Won accolades for that. And as that extends down to the desktop, that's going to be pretty exciting. And look, what we saw this last year was everybody talked about PCs being a little pressured. We saw recovery in there too. So, Randy, I got to tell you, this is the best industry to be in, and I say that because people forget that at one point there were thousands of oil companies, and then they all collapsed into they all got bought, they all merged, et cetera, right? With our industry, there's always a wildcat, and tech is about productivity. And we're always going to try to improve productivity and experience. And as long as that's the focus of the world, tech is always going to be there, and there's always going to be a wildcat. So that's why I love it. I felt like it's always been an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And moving on to our title topic, building a winning sales culture. That's something that I think a lot of times gets kind of missed in what you're doing and how you're doing it. But I know you're very passionate about it. It's kind of table stakes, kind of the first thing you got to care about, worry about, and focus on. So how do you define culture?
Well, first off, I think it has to be a winning culture, right? Everybody wants to come to work, they want to win. And so when I think of a sales culture, I think it's about a couple of things. I think it's about being on a team that wants to win, being a team that likes to celebrate those wins, being on a team that can adjust to any of the challenges out there, and come away as winners. Like I said, putting winning in a bunch of this stuff. I think it's a team that cares about their customers. So for me, one of the things that we went through that merge, one of the messages that was delivered by myself, not only by myself, but by Peter and others, was, look, we're going to figure out all this stuff. You know, merges are tough, but focus it on the customer experience, because, you know, that is part of our culture. You know, I quote, and I got this from from Steve Brazier over at Canapoli. He said, and he didn't make it up himself, but he made the comment, pessimists sound smart, optimists make money. And I think that's another part of the culture, right? You want to make sure that your team is always optimistic, because sales, it can be a tough gig. You know, you get that rejection, you got to dust yourself back up and run to that line of scrimmage. I try to create that optimism. I always say that you try to create superheroes, because those are the people that overachieve goals. And look, success breeds success. I mean, Randy, when you were growing up, your parents ever asked you who you wanted to be, what you wanted to do?
I believe it or not, I never want to be a fireman or anything like that. It was always, I want to be a pilot. And I figured out the only way I could be a pilot was I had to go to the military or do it privately, and I couldn't afford it privately. And yeah, unfortunately, I didn't want to go in the military. So I figured out the sales thing.
Okay. Well, I didn't say sales, and I just posted about this. I said, you know, I remember my mom and dad asked me that, and I said, I want to be a superhero, right? Who doesn't want to be a superhero, right?
Right.
And so whenever I think about, you know, my team, like I said, we want to create a winning culture. We want to create people that overachieve. We want to create people with superpowers in some ways, you know, superheroes, right? And I think success breeds success. And like I said, since everybody wants to be a superhero, when you see a superhero, you want to be like that person. So that sort of culture is important. And you know, everything you can do to drive down those sort of attributes, winning, you know, recognition, um, you know, overachievement, you know, ability to just conquer. I always feel that those sort of things in your sales culture drive overperformance.
Yeah, absolutely. And then how do you, so there's kind of the winning sales culture, but you know, at all companies we've been at, right? It's okay. You know, how do you get the non-sales folks? A lot of people could say, okay, well, you know, their sales are making commission off this, but you have the different, you know, functional areas of the pre-sales and the supply chain and the marketing and kind of other ones where, you know, there's something going on. They're working on, you know, deal, trying to get a, you know, steal a, you know, of our customer away from somebody else, and they need to get something, you know, kind of fast. So kind of what things do you do to make sure that, you know, the team, because you have sales as sales, but they're kind of very dependent on a lot of other functional areas.
Best team ever, Randy. Best team ever. You know, one of the things when I talk about best team ever, and uh, best team ever, and I'd never been on social media, and it's really taken off. I'm kind of shocked. Was formed because at one point during the merge, myself and other sales leaders were sitting around, some people in ops, and one of my sales leaders said, "Hey, you know, we need a rally point, Steve. You're everywhere. You're always on. You know, you should get people to rally behind that. Why don't you start posting?" And I said, I've never done that before. Um, and someone said, like, you know, I don't know why, you got the best team ever, you know. And when I think of team, I don't think of just mine, which is spectacular. I think of everybody within the organization, like I said, everybody that helps get it out the door, right? Um, and so they came up with that. Kay McMillan, I'll give her some props here. One of my team came up with that hashtag BTE best team ever. Um, and when I talk about that, if you've read some of the stuff I've written, if you've heard me in person talk about it, I don't think about just the sales team, which is mine. I think about the entire company that helped do that. I'll give you an example. And going along with celebrating wins and recognition, um, I report just like most companies do. I report stuff monthly, you know, in a big managers meeting. A bunch of people, managers from all over the organization are watching this, right? And at the end of it, I call out people in three categories. It's performance, which obviously is a number, right? It is teamwork, and that kind of embodies some of what you're talking about, is people that actually work with us to drive engagements and help get that business done. Finance, ops, vendors, vendor management, right? And we also have an award called the Damon Mims Award. It's called the Going the Extra Mile because Damon was one of our team that we lost too soon, but he was always known for going the extra mile. Anyway, those two last awards, many times the people that get nominated for those awards for my sales team are not within sales. They're people outside sales that help drive that number because they're part of the best team ever. So I post that every month because I like to recognize that work that helps. Some of the other things that have been done is within TD SYNNEX, we have a program, Discovery Reps, where we bring people in and we rotate them through various functions so they can learn. And we actually say, hey, what do you think, works best for you? And what do you think, does the management think works best for you? And, that helps cross-train those functions because you really get to understand what someone's going through on the other part of the organization when you walk the mile in their shoes.
Yep, absolutely. I was with a executive friend this morning who works at one of the large chip companies, and they have a large customer opportunity. They partner with the large server vendors, for lack of better words, and the customer wanted to say, okay, we're meeting today. Let's do follow up tomorrow. We want to narrow it down to kind of who we're going to pick on the server side. Dell, of course, kind of responds right away. Okay, great. We're going to have the right people there. We can do Zoom, everything else. There's another, I guess I'll call it a 3-letter company, which means there's at least kind of 2 or more of who those could be that basically couldn't get out of their own way. Probably going to take like 5 days. They prefer to go probably with that 3-letter company, but just not getting it done. And it's not the sales. It's okay. Sales needs the help from these other functional areas, and they know the Dell culture is we're going to do it. We're going to get it done and do what we need to do, which is a lot of what you're talking about. But I want to get to Sarah here. Thanks. Looks like a couple questions.
Wow.
First question: the talents and competencies of a successful seller have evolved greatly in recent years. It used to be confidence and moxie filled a pipeline. Today, it's learning agility, networking, and adaptability. So I guess the first question is, do you agree with that?
I do. Look, there's a lot to be said about the confident seller. There's a lot to be said about the aggressive seller. Those things are all really good. But to that point, as all the things that we sell have become more complex, there's other skills that need to be involved. And I do think that's part of the constant evolution of our sellers. You want to continue to teach them some of the skills. It could be, technical acumen. It could be, accuracy around forecasts. I mean, just all those things that I think Sarah asked the question, spoke about, are important. So, one of the things that we strive to do, and I know that as Raina Thompson, our new president, comes up for North America, she's spoken quite a bit about, hey, what's the new selling motions that we should all be aware of, right? So a lot of those competencies and skills are things that we focus in on to make sure, hey, it's not just Steve, and I'm a generalist, that goes in and says, here's the 30-minute charm. How does Steve effectively know how to speak about certain technologies? How does Steve effectively know how to, have the discipline to do certain tasks? How does Steve know how to pass the ball to someone smarter than myself? And there's a lot of people out there that are, to do all those things. So I do think a well-rounded salesperson continues to evolve, and more of those skills that make them well-rounded are coming in as the business becomes more complex. And teaching those people is how you invest in your team.
Absolutely. And what are ways that you're kind of doing that in terms of that, kind of teaching or updated training? Because obviously you got newbies, and then you have some veterans, and they all need help.
Yeah. I want to be careful because we always are evolving that way. But it's, constant training, not just, I think, on just product, but, mentoring is important. One of the things that happened as a result of this merge is you look at best practices. And I will say that one of the things that I got from my newer family members, my newer coworkers,
Yeah.
well, they had a pretty good development program, as I said, and so it would be assignments to people that would mentor them along a path to improve their skills, whether that be hard skills such as learn how to work the system, and all that kind of stuff, to maybe some of the soft skills such as how do you have the discipline around the sales process. And look, we're always evolving that stuff. I get some great ideas from just listening to things and going, should I be doing that? Is that a better process to go with? And so, it's a little bit of experimentation sometimes, but I think the whole ultimate goal is to constantly improve your sellers as the market evolves.
Yep, absolutely. And then she goes on, and how do you know you have the right people in the right seats to ensure you're ready for the next 3 years or more of your growth expectations? You covered a little bit. Anything to add?
Results obviously are a pretty good way to judge that, right? Customer feedback. I spoke about optimism. One of the things you want to make sure you do is make sure that your sellers are getting your feedback from your customers, right? And I think in some ways that translates to making the customer involved in the process with you. You want a quick story to kind of go along with that?
Of course.
Yeah, so I just gave a presentation about sales culture, and one of the things that I spoke about was one of the organizations that always fascinates me is, and I'm sure you've done this, or plenty of people have done this. We've all gone to a Disney park, right? And at the end of the day, I know I get home and I empty out my wallet from all these receipts, and I go, oh my gosh, I spent a ton of money at this place. How did that happen? And you never really see the manager in any of these parks, right? You never see a supervisor, you never see a manager, but yet all along the way you've done these things that have extracted money. So a couple of things I say is that one, the Disney's mission is to create that fantasy world for us, right? And you believe in the mission. You're really part of that mission. You're really embroiled in that mission, and so you want them to be successful, right? So you kind of help along the way, and then everybody at every stage within that Disney park knows their role within that mission. And I think that's important for you to outline to your sellers, right? Now,
Sure.
I think the seller doesn't really care as much about the mission. Disney's going to grow top line by X. They don't care about that. But what they do care about, and this is what I think is important, is to make sure that every person in each role knows their part of the mission. And so, basically, if you have the right people, by the results for everybody within that mission, I think.
Absolutely.
That role within the mission, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. So then kind of as you're kind of looking at the world now and thinking about probably next year, there's a lot that you have to do probably to adapt on the sales training and development kind of programs to make sure that you are, continuing to excel, remain competitive, addressing all these complex needs of all your, current customers. Anything special that you're doing there?
I am working with a ton of people within the organization on the whole thought process around sales, etc. So I would say that all the stuff that needs to go into a plan for next year is still being worked, and that's all the stuff that you would expect, right? I think the soft stuff, and I shouldn't say soft, but the stuff behind the scenes to make it happen, those are things that we're all learning right now and taking input to make sure that we have the right plan. So I want to be careful. I don't want to reveal any strategic plans or anything because I like my job. But yes, we're looking at a bunch of different things, and I think once we do, then our customers will know because we'll service them better, and our vendors will know because we'll service them better too.
Absolutely. And I'm going to follow up with a question around customer experience, but I want to get some of these questions here. So from Rachel, with such a wide set of products and services, I mean, if you had your SKU count has to be, is it tens of thousands?
probably larger than that, but go ahead.
100,000 crazy.
Yeah.
So with such a wide set, very wide set of products and services, how are you driving portfolio selling? Any lessons learned that you recommend other portfolio companies do or not do?
I think that comes a lot with solution selling. And so, solution selling is a multi-vendor sort of art, right? Where TD SYNNEX has done very well is focused in on solution selling. And so they've taught specific parts of the organization that skill set. So for instance, it's not just selling the bottle. Let me sell you the bottle opener too, because I know that's what you need to make work. So let me teach you that solution. It's not selling the can, it's the can opener. So if you look at our strategy around solves, we have over, I can't even count them, we have a security solve, we have a visual solve, we have a print solve, we have teams that are very focused in on specific vertical practices or segments. And so when you look at how they sell that solution. And again, that becomes portfolio selling, right? And so they learn how to do a lot of what I think Rachel's asking is, how do you sell the breadth of the portfolio? Well, it becomes, how do you create the solution? The other side of it also becomes, how do you glue it all together? So that it also becomes saying, Randy, do you have the services in order to glue it all together? And
Right.
that becomes part of what we sell also. So those things are key to us. And then you also have where customers are doing a vertical practice within their bigger practices. And in that, we rely on a lot of the teams within our vendor management teams to do that, because they also are doing that vertical selling. So it's specific teams as sellers to drive those practices where customers are a little more single-threaded along that practice, helps drive that portfolio. And then also it's being able to have a generalist such as myself pass to other teams that are better solution sellers, as they teach me the elevator pitch and I understand, now it's time to bring in people that are smarter and more detailed about that solution under myself. If that makes sense. We've done well. We sell a breadth of stuff.
Yeah, I've seen it in action, right? So you could have a cloud-centric partner and you say, well, you already have this customer. We can kind of cross-sell in other things, server storage, networking, security. You could have security only, right? Prides them, hey, we're security only boutique. But hey, by the way, you got, you're the one that's known, liked, and trusted by your end user customers. So wouldn't it be nice to kind of, give them these other solution sets and you can help them out and you can make more money, right?
Sure. It's driving a not consultative sales, but a consultative business approach.
Exactly.
How do I help you become who you want to be or realize the possibilities of who you could be?
Yeah, absolutely. And then from Eric, we have, hi, Steve. My question is around efficiency as a seller. Sellers are inundated with new process, tools, products to sell, new competitors to know, and changing market dynamics. How do you help them balance being effective and efficient?
A lot of that is a strength of our system. I know that this is out there, but the majority of the business we are on is now on one ERP. So that helps us drive everything from one language set. So that's one, right? So that reduces that friction of communication. So that's one piece. The other part of it is you want to basically detail out your go-to-market and order and sales flow based upon the customers they serve, and find how it's the ways you reduce the inefficiencies in it. So, for an example, a lot of times, as I said, my seller might not know a specific cloud configuration, et cetera, right? How can you make that seller pass that to someone who knows it better and drive that efficiency? And then what you start monitoring is basically that order flow, or I'll give you a better one, a security quote, right? Which are very complex. You monitor basically the passing of the ball to the expert, how fast the expert returns that ball to you, so you can make that play as smooth as possible. I will say this, I'm fascinated by the things I'm seeing out there on AI. James Roth with with Zoom Info is here at this conference, and he gave a really good speech, as well as a panel, with some folks from Microsoft. You were from Microsoft and such, and they gave a very good panel about kind of AI itself. And what they talked about is, you have your sellers and your grinders, right? And as AI comes in, you begin to realize what are the tasks that can take away from each of these people so they can focus in really what their skill sets are. What are the best parts of their baseball card?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very cool. So great questions there. Thanks all. So anybody else watching along or listening, feel free to comment or ask any questions for sure. So kind of circling back, talk a lot about sales culture, but now you have this whole kind of customer experience, which kind of didn't exist 20 years ago, right? Or even 10 years ago. It was maybe kind of post-sale support, but anything special that you're doing on that side?
We are monitoring a lot of what our customers' feedback is, right? And that is various through different things. We just launched a report driven by Bobby Eagle, and we're going to share that report coming up at some point about some of the industry insights they're seeing and feedback from our customers. What are customers seeing, right? And the other part of it is our team has launched NPS scores, et cetera, which I'm pretty happy with what the NPS scores were. So we're always looking for feedbacks. We do a lot of QBRs. We do a lot of engagements with our customers to get their feedback. To me, customer experience trumps everything. If you can get the customer experience right, you're going to have a successful sales org. You really are. Through the merge, and merges aren't easy. The one thing we really drove as number one is, let's make sure that no matter how tough it might be behind the scenes, let's make sure that nobody feels any drop in customer experience. And to your point, I know it's odd I shouldn't say odd. It's good, but different that has become, a whole position, the CXO, right? But I think that's great, because that's something that, Randy, 30 years ago when we first met, we talked about that. If the customer's happy, everything works, right? So I'm glad that it's beginning to become more of a formalized sort of process to make sure we understand that, right? So.
Yep, absolutely. So shifting gears, lead generation is always critical. Any kind of tips or best practices that you've seen there, either what TD SYNNEX does or what you've seen some of your channel partners do?
We have done some partnerships with some of our vendors, and I want to be careful, right? With some of our vendors and helping them drive lead generation. So in other words, we've given them tools to say, I'll give you a couple. We've given them tools to say where are the public sector opportunities, and they can pretty much diagram that out in the past, right? We've given them tools to say, hey, let us help you drive some marketing campaigns. Let us outsource your marketing arm to us in some cases, right? And so now with the advent of some of these things, the digitization out there, we continue to refine those. So those are some best practices. I think a lot of times, making sure that we effectively spend the co-op MDF that vendors are giving to our resellers and letting us help drive that ball is one way. We do quite a bit around events, where you can share information, collaborate, meet your peers. Our communities have been great ways to help drive lead generation ideas. But in terms of, like I said, bringing end clients to the table, bringing targets for our resellers, quite a few campaigns have been run where the reseller outsources that motion to us, and quite a few formalized programs. And I want to thank the vendors that have done that with us, because we've seen it work.
Awesome. So great for sure. So it looks like Sarah's asking a question. You seem like the kind of guy who appreciates the small things in life. Seat upgrade on a flight, quick meet and greet with some kangaroos in Santa Barbara.
Sarah's a follower of my LinkedIn.
There you go. Awesome. Very, very cool. But it's good, right? Like I'm shocked. My family's like, Dad, I can't believe you're posting that about the family or the baseball boys thing or kind of whatever. I get more comments. I go to these random events and like, I don't even know the people I see. I follow this stuff, right? So I think having that, and I don't do Facebook or Instagram, so maybe different, but I think kind of having that personalization on LinkedIn or other posting is something that just shows that you're kind of authentic and real, which you do a great job of.
Thanks. Well, I hope I'm just not showing I'm authentic and real. I like to think that I'm authentic and real. And since Sarah asked about family and Sarah appreciates these questions, we talked about culture, and there's things about culture that evolve because the business evolves. And there's things that just should not change because they're very key to culture. And I'll tell you one, and I'll give you a quick story. So family obviously is very important in culture, right? The family of your family, your personal family, and the family of people you work with, right? I mean, we spend more time with them than our true family in a lot of cases, right? And so that's something that has always been part of the culture of the company that I came from the merge, and I can see as part of the culture that is of the new company. And the examples I give of that is, Patrick Zammit, our new CEO, just spoke about that at our Direction of the Industry event. He spoke about the partners in the room and how you can tell their family. John Bolger, my head of nationals team, just spoke about that at our national event. He spoke about the comment from the attendees where it seems like this is a really good family reunion where you can be honest with each other and solve and figure out how to do better together, right? And so that is the culture that has been preserved from that stance. Let me give you a quick story on how I felt it from the beginning, and I just want to give a shout out to the Peter LaRock, who's been a big mentor to me. When I first took the job, when I first got my stripes, I told Pete, I said, "Hey, Pete, man, I'll go anywhere and everywhere you want me to go. I will go at it hard. I will travel," and I think I've proven that case. But look, I've got 2 young children. I'm recently married.
I know you're always home on the weekend.
Well, I'm even more than that. As I said, Pete, any birthday, holiday, family event, recital, whatever, you got to get me home. And true to his word, he has. In fact, our Inspire event, which is coming up, which we'll have 700 of our partners at, that always falls around my oldest daughter's birthday. And sometimes it would interfere. And true to his word, I could be at the opening part of it, speak, meet with partners. They would fly me home. I'd have that birthday with my daughter, and they'd come back for the tail end of it. No one knew I was gone. So if I have to say anything to you, Pete, thanks for that, man. You really proved to me that family meant everything, and you taught me that's part of the culture that we continue to preserve.
Awesome. So great. So I think Sarah's question was really around customer experience, which I think you had answered before. So in closing, then I always like to say if there's any PG Randy story you'd like to share.
Wow, PG. No, I'm just kidding, Randy. I will say this, I gave you props. So when you had started, when you left the big companies and started, some of this engagement gigs because you wanted to leverage the relationships, and you reached out to me, and you had said, Steve, I'm going to bring some partners together. We're going to go skiing. We're going to bring some vendors together. You help keep that ecosystem alive. And I do remember this, and I know you're an athlete, Randy, but I always consider myself a pretty good skier, right? And I remember going, landing at this event, and you called me and saying, "Hey, we're at the top of this run, wherever." I think Jack Rogosian was with us, right? And I got to the top of that hill, and I said, "Oh, hey, Randy," and I'm feeling pretty confident. I'm feeling pretty testosterone filled. Like, okay, let's go. And dude, like a bullet, you shot down that hill, and I thought to myself, "Why do you even think I could keep up? It's Randy." You pretty much skied like you acted in life, which is just you punched your way through, and I gotta tell you, I was like, okay, I'm not worthy. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna kind of sink my head and ski some easier stuff. So, congrats on your life, buddy. I mean,
I appreciate it.
you've done well. I
Thank
can tell
you.
from your attitude. So
Thank you. So you've been awesome. We didn't even get to half of what we want to get to, but just so great. Just so much wisdom, experiences, the importance of culture. Thanks to those that have asked the questions and commented. And next week, actually, we have Scott McNeely, who's kind of a tech legend.
Maverick McNeely's dad? Maverick McNeely's dad?
There you go.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. He's Maverick's dad. Yes, claim to fame. And then after that, Denise Millard is a channel chief at Dell. Matt Horner, we talked about WWT, and lots of other great ones for sure. So everybody that's watching, thank you so much. And everybody have a great week. Thanks, Steve. And thanks, Tucker, for your help behind the scenes. Thanks, Alexander Group, for sponsoring.
Thanks, Randy.